Good morning. Happy Labor Day. I'm Greg Schaefer. Welcome to the virtual CISO moment for Labor Day, September 4th, 2023. This is Cybersecurity Quick Strike. Sorry, this is a little bit late this morning, and I am doing this live. It looks like I just got done running a 5K, or a 10K. It's because I just got done running a 10K. It's a blessing to be able to still do this, and I'm going to keep on doing it as long as my legs and my Lord will let me. We start out today from the Hacker News. Chinese-speaking cybercriminals launched large-scale iMessage smishing campaign in the United States. A new large-scale smishing campaign is targeting the United States by sending iMessages from compromised Apple iCloud accounts with an aim to conduct identity theft and financial fraud. Quote, the Chinese-speaking threat actors behind this campaign are operating a package tracking text scam via iMessage to collect potentially identifying information, PII, and payment credentials from victims in the furtherance of identity theft and credit card fraud, Security said in an analysis published this week. The cybercrime group, dubbed Smishing Triad, is also said to be in the business of, quote, fraud as a service. Everything has to be as a service, right? Offering other actors ready-to-use smishing kits via Telegram that cost $200 a month. These kits impersonate popular postal and delivery services in the United States, the UK, Poland, Sweden, Indonesia, Italy, Malaysia, Japan, and other countries. A standout aspect of this activity is the use of breached Apple iCloud accounts as a delivery vector to send package delivery failure messages, urging recipients to click on a link to reschedule the delivery and enter their credit card information in a fake form. Security's analysis of the smishing kit revealed an SQL injection vulnerability that it said allowed them to retrieve over 108,044 records of victim data. Not good. Gigabytes of sensitive data related to British military and intelligence sites have been exposed by the infamous Lockbit ransomware group, this according to InfoSecurity magazine. Zon, a Wolverhampton-based manufacturer of fencing systems, has revealed it was hit by a cyber attack carried out by Lockbit on August 5th through 6th. Quote, in an otherwise up-to-date network, the breach occurred through a rogue Windows 7 PC that was running software for one of our manufacturing machines. I like how they started the description there. In an otherwise up-to-date network, and here you have this Windows 7 PC. How long has Windows 7 been EOL? But I digress. Continuing with the quote, our own cybersecurity prevented the server from being encrypted. The machine had been, maybe it's because it was so old, the machine had been removed and the vulnerability closed. We now have been able to continue work as normal with no interruptions to service. The company said this in a statement published on Friday of this past week. At the time of attack, Zon believed its cybersecurity solutions thwarted any transfer of data. However, this is a quote, we can now confirm that during the attack, Lockbit managed to download some data possibly limited to the vulnerable PC, but with a risk that some data on the server was accessed. It is believed that this is 10 gigabytes of data, potentially including some historic emails, orders, drawings, and project files, the statement continued. Now, Lockbit did claim responsibility for this attack on August 13th. The gang gave Zon until August 29th to pay an undisclosed ransom, after which it did publish some data on the leaked site. vCISO Services is a small, specialized, veteran-owned information security firm with a calling, founded on Christian values and focused on the needs of small and mid-sized businesses. Our passion is to help small and mid-sized businesses gain a fighting chance in an increasingly hostile cybersecurity threat environment by providing executive part-time virtual CISO services, information security risk management services, and CISO advisory services. Check them out at vcisoservices.com. Well, this should come as no surprise. I ask this question to my guests every Tuesday, what they think is potentially the highest risk to small and mid-sized businesses, and more often than not, ransomware is up there. Well, 65% of all organizations confirm that ransomware is one of the top 3 threats to their viability, and for 13%, it is the biggest threat. This is according to a report by Enterprise Strategy Group and Keep It, and reported by HelpNet Security. According to the report's findings, while ransomware attacks are sometimes kept private from the public, they are a common occurrence and represent both a significant and recurring source of business disruption. Among the 600 respondents, only 16% of those whose organizations had experienced a successful ransomware attack were able to fully recover all their data after the attack, while a staggering 84% lost data they were not able to recoup. The study sought to identify proactive and reactive strategies employed by organizations to guard against growing ransomware attacks, examine mitigation practices, and share how organizations can be better prepared in the next 12 to 18 months. Quote, threat actors continue their attacks because for them it is a business model that works. In most cases, a ransomware attack results in permanently lost data, even when companies meet the ransomware demand. This, according to Keep It CTO Jacob Ostergaard. Threat actors are getting increasingly bold in their ransomware demands, giving their targets no choice but to relent and pay to get their data back and restore daily operations. After all, that's what they're meant to be. They're in business to be in business. As a result of this ongoing and growing operation, according to the article, 80% of organizations surveyed stated that they expect their spending in support of ransomware preparedness to increase over the same time period, 12 to 18 months. From Bleeping Computer, the University of Sydney, USYD, announced that a breach at a third-party service provider exposed personal information of recently applied and enrolled international applicants. Now, the public university started operations in 1850 and has nearly 70,000 students and about 8,500 in academic and administrative personnel. It is considered one of Australia's most important educational institutes. In the data breach announcement, the university says that an incident had a limited impact and that the preliminary investigation found no evidence of that local student, staff, or alumni had been impacted. It is unclear if the intruder picked the time of the attack deliberately or if it was an opportunistic endeavor. The university says that those impacted will be contacted and receive the required support to mitigate the risk of exposure. Regarding the data that the attackers accessed, USYD says that it's still in the process of determining that and urges all international applicants to follow the guidance provided. Dark Reading says that the proposed SEC cybersecurity rule will put unnecessary strain on CISOs. We've talked a lot about this rule recently. Of course, going back to March 2022, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, because you know why, proposed a rule on cybersecurity disclosure, governance, and risk management for public companies known as the Proposed Rule for Public Companies, PRPC. Now, I'm okay with that acronym because that's a mouthful to try to say. This rule will require companies to report material cybersecurity incidents within 4 days. It also will require that boards of directors have cybersecurity expertise. I don't know if they defined what that expertise is. Unsurprisingly, getting back to the article, it is being met with all sorts of pushback. In its current form, the proposed rule leaves a lot of room for interpretation, and it's impractical in some areas. For one, according to this blog post, the tight disclosure window will put massive amounts of pressure on chief information security officers, CISOs, to disclose material incidents before they have all the details. Incidents can take weeks and sometimes months to understand and fully remediate. It's impossible to know the impact of a new vulnerability until ample resources are dedicated to remediation. CISOs may also end up having to disclose vulnerabilities that, with more time, end up being less of an issue and therefore not material. That, in turn, could affect the short-term price of a company. I'll have to dig into that a little bit more, but the basic rule of thumb has been that you report when you're substantially sure that there has been a breach or that there is definitely the opportunity that information could be accessed. So there is that period of time where you do have, in order to, and you can't unnecessarily delay that. It has to be realistic. So it's one of those things where it's very difficult to put a time on. It's just, as a CISO, when you get to that point. And that's something that's going to be very difficult to put in any sort of code or law or anything. And so, as this blogger says, 4-day disclosure requirements might are fine at face value, but that puts more distractions on the CISOs that are actually trying to get the problem solved. Finally, and I agree with the blog poster's opinion here, as with any new regulation, there are questions and uncertainties with PRPC. We'll just have to wait and see how it all evolves and whether companies can meet the proposed requirements. Lastly, I've got today's list for you here. This is 10 types of AI attacks CISOs should track. So, we've been really pinging on AI over the past several months. I try to bring you as much varied information on artificial intelligence as I can. So, I saw this headline. This is actually from May of this past year. So, it's a little dated, but it was enough to grab me. And I have not read what these AI attacks are, but for your benefit, here they are. As soon as it loads. This is going to be a little tough. These are slides. AI poisoning attacks. The principle behind these attacks is that by manipulating the data, a deep learning model trains on, an attacker can either corrupt the model. Well, that makes sense. Okay, so you're basically poisoning the input into the LLM. Weaponized models. Proof of concept of how attackers could potentially embed malicious code into pre-trained machine learning models. Okay. Data privacy attacks. I can see that. I'm going to leave the details for you to read because it's a little bit cumbersome reading the slides here. I'm just going to read the last 7 titles. Model theft. So yes, I guess that they could steal models outright. Sponge attack. Well, what's a sponge attack? The discussion was broad and wide-ranging. This is from RSA. One of the specific emerging attack types that popped up in the discussion was called a sponge attack. In this attack type, adversaries can essentially conduct a denial of service attack against an AI model by specifically crafting input to burn up the model's use of hardware consumption. Okay, I can see that. I did not hear of that term before. I was not at RSA, but I'll have to remember sponge attack. So it's like a DDoS on AI. More acronyms. Number 6, prompt injection. So it beats the traditional SQL injection. It's cross-site scripting. It is the use of maliciously crafted prompts into generative AI to elicit incorrect, inaccurate, or even potentially offensive responses. All right, that's interesting. 7, evasion attacks. These attacks are the ones that can evade detection or classification of systems like facial recognition. Okay, so basically tricking people into stuff or tricking cars into going through stop signs, as it says here. Number 8, AI-generated phishing and BEC alerts. We've seen a lot of that recently. Number 9, deep fake BECs and other scams. I think that's related to the one we just saw. Business email compromise, of course, is BEC. I'm assuming that that's what they're referring to here. And number 10, AI-generated malware and vulnerability discovery. I think we started to see a little bit of that as well, too. Well, I'm sorry to report that Middle Tennessee State University did not cover the spread. That's all right. That's how you get better when you go up against the best. I'd rather go up against the best myself, lose, and then learn than be a big fish in a small pond and never challenge myself. And I hope that's the same for you. That's it for today. Dr. Frederick Scholl from Quinnipiac University joins us tomorrow. He's got some great insight into the future generation of cybersecurity. So we'll see you then. And until then, as always, stay secure.